So please put your hand up if you have a burning question for Chris or any of the panelists that you've heard this afternoon.
We're all sitting.
Okay, Idal, yep. Go ahead. Give your name and organization, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Amor. I actually work in the music industry. I work with blockchain and data ledger transfers at the aggregation level. You know, I'm curious with all these new technological advancements. You have data boosters. You have the Yeshua plugin, which is being chosen amongst individuals out in the Caribbean and Spain. I wanted to ask you folks how long it is that you foresee this technology being implemented on the global level before, well, in order to achieve the adequate results for monetization, because that's what this is all about, monetization, right?
Can we get these turned on?
I guess if this was a blockchain question, you know, I'm the one who said blockchain is a clown car last year. I see no practical utility for it in my world. I know how to write or rewrite. So I know how to do transactional ledger-based databases. I honestly have nothing really to say about, I guess, blockchain.
Yeah, and also, you know, this idea that AI will someday create, you know, beautiful art or will become creatures that we interact with. I think that's going a little too far. I think, you know, it's machine learning, it's applied science, but it's not, you know, recreating what humans do well. So you had music in there, so I'm not really sure where you're going with that. So blockchain and music, I don't know.
Other questions on the floor? Yes, in the back. Name and organization?
So this is Sambit. I'm from Encarta Therapeutics. So the question is probably for Chris. You mentioned your work with like 15 different companies doing the same thing, repeating the wheel again and again. So in the next 5 years, what are the major challenges which could be like, which could be collated in a way it's helpful for the newer companies trying to build the same infrastructure or the same problems? I see hiring a consultant is a solution, but what are the challenges and what are the next 5 years looks like to solve this or make it easier for others?
Yeah, I think probably, you know, especially my view working with the sort of smaller growth-oriented startups is I started my career really exclusively working on the discovery and R&D side of things. And now my work is broadened to include commercial, clinical ops, commercial ops. And, you know, in terms of things that I would recommend, things to avoid reinventing the wheel, is honestly start thinking now about how you're going to do that data and analytics sharing across organizations. You know, a couple of years ago, it was an afterthought for me to share data outside of my R&D organization. Now, if I was building a startup from day one, it would be, okay, how do we link in everybody all the way up through, you know, medical affairs and patient affairs? I think, honestly, that would be the most forward-thinking thing I can answer in a couple of seconds.
So we have a question in the back, yeah?
Yes, we have a question from the Pathable chat, and I think this is actually from Chris's presentation as well, about the analogy of which data is relevant for how long. How do you think we should factor in regulatory and IP protection considerations into that calculation?
I think regulatory is fairly easy in that you can basically just follow the rules of your regulator or your auditor. That's one of the things, honestly, I liked about my consulting work is that's not my area of expertise, so I prefer to sit down with the auditor and make her happy. The intellectual property stuff is a lot harder, and I think some of that is behind some of the data hoarding problems that we've seen. I think I don't have an answer to the question, but the problem is that internally we're incentivized to hoard and micromanage and gatekeep access to our data. For some people, it's basically because of career. There's a lot of people whose upward career progression is based on citation and publication. And for other people, it's intellectual property and wanting to get that patent application in or get that IND application in. So I think, you know, honestly, for me, that's basically what it boils down to is I don't have an answer, but the problem is identifying the negative incentives we have that are forcing people to gatekeep, hoard, and sort of squirrel away their data for either career or IP reasons.
Yeah, Benita Sudi, MD Serono. I was actually the one who asked the question in the chat. And I mean, I agree, obviously, for regulatory, there's a certain period of time. It varies by country. I was thinking more along the lines of the tendency to not want to sort your data into, do I really need this? And then, you know, 10 years later, when the regulator is asking you for it, you're actually not finding it because there's a a whole dump of data around the data that you actually needed to save.
Yep.
So I think we're probably on the same page, but there's no easy way, I think, to get people to actually sort it into what you're actually going to need.
It's been relatively shocking to me in my consulting work to walk into an organization and find out and ask, what are your data retention policies? What are your there's a lot of companies that don't have them or don't have them in writing. And that's that was a little bit of a shock to me. But I think based on my trends, I think that's actually changing. We're at the inflection point where people are starting to care. And particularly when we're looking down the barrel of a regulatory agency, probably should have started caring 4 or 5 years ago, I think, in a lot of those cases.
Sanjay, I'll give you the very last. It's got to be a question, though. Oh, sorry, Sanjay, over there. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Sanjay Joshi. I'm with a company called Tanium. I worked in the AI industry for a couple of years. This question is for Fernanda. When I polled several senior folks, this was 3 years ago, there were 0 deep learning algorithms in production. When I polled the same folks last year, there were 0 deep learning algorithms in production. You mentioned regression. Yes, probably a logic regression still works much better than anything else. Where is deep learning being used in production?
Yeah,
That's an answer.
that's it. That's all I got. I think the best way to really think about AI is that it's still, at least within precision medicine, health, biology, we have no regulatory means to navigate. We have no way, the FDA doesn't know how to navigate this. We don't know how to navigate this. This is completely new, so production, no.
And the answer was model validation and causal inference, which is there was 0.
Right.
Okay, we're going to wrap things up there. The refreshments are in the hall, but let's thank Chris, Carl, Adam, and Fernanda. Great job.